We are less than a week away from Major League Baseball's trade deadline. How many faces will be in new places come this time on Monday? We're going to talk about it now. So kick back, relax, because the trade deadline preview edition of Hitting Home starts right now. And hello, everybody, once again, and welcome into Hitting Home. Of course, this is the official baseball show of 609 Sports Talk Radio. We are coming to you guys live tonight with an MLB trade deadline preview. And as always, Sam Nelson, Dustin Reese. Dustin, good evening. Well, good late night, whatever you want to call it.
Well, tonight's a better night than what I had earlier this week.
That is fair. I'm not going to argue that. I won't argue that with you. So, look, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We'll get around some of the other moves that have happened around baseball. You know, I mean, Dustin has some opinions on a DFA from the Cubs earlier this week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the A's a little bit later on. We'll talk about the trade with the Red Sox and Nationals, which I thought was a good trade, except the fact that on the Red Sox side, it lasted not even a full game. But we'll talk about that in a second. But to kick the show off tonight, we have a heavy trade deadline preview show. We're going to get into Jeff Passan's article that he put out last week. He put out the top 100 trade candidates for this year's deadline. Now, we're not going to get to all of them. That's a lot of names to get through on a late night. But we'll get to some of the main ones. There are some big ones in there that I personally don't know if they'll get moved. But it's interesting that their names are involved in this topic. But before we get into the Jeff Passan article of the 100 players, Dustin, I want your opinion on something. What kind of deadline between now and Monday are you expecting? Since there's so much up in the air about next season, do you think we're going to see an aggressive deadline? One that's not so active.
I honestly feel that we might have the busiest trade deadline we've seen in decades. And I think a big reason for that has to do with the impending lockout for next season and not knowing what's to come. And when you have so many teams that are still in the race, like the Miami Marlins just lost 12 games in a row, but they're still very much alive in the wild card race now because they built up such a good kind of cushion in that first half of the season. With so many teams that are still in this race, knowing what type of financial situation a lot of these teams could be in next year, I expect this to be a very big deadline for a lot of teams because they're going to be not only aggressive to try to win now with the rosters they have, not knowing what their rosters might look like in a couple of years, but this is when you're going to be those teams that you don't care if you're trading for a player that's making $40 million, especially if he's a rental or if he's done with his contract next year. Like these teams that typically might try to stay away from these higher priced like trade candidates, those are the ones you're going to see go off the board, I think, first this year, just because teams know that if you get them this year and there's a lockout next year, it is what it is. The money's off the books after that.
Yeah, and that's why I think some of these higher priced players that are on this list that Passan put out last week, like you said, if there is a cap implemented into the sport next year, there's a lot of teams that are in trouble. And also, if there's that salary floor, those teams are also in a little bit of trouble. So could teams that, have been kind of on the lower payroll side of things over the past, I'll say, 5 to 6 years. Do they see a big contract guy that another team wants to offload, and they'll say, "We'll take him. We'll take that money, put it on our books, and get out of. Don't deal with the salary floor stuff."
Right?
So, I do. I that's why I'm going to be in agreement. I think between now and Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, it is going to be mayhem. So, with that being said, let's hop into this Jeff Passan article from last week. He's got some interesting names in here. Now, what he did with this is he's put the players, the percentage of being traded, and of course they put in here some teams that are their best fits. That's the main things we'll attack in this article here. So, of course, the number one player on this list, Dustin, give me one guess who you think it is.
Scobaniel.
Real funny.
Terry Scooble's got to be the top
Eric
one.
number one. His traded is 6%. After today, it may go on. And I love it how Passan puts his best fits. Every single contending team, but more realistically, he lists the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Rays.
I mean, 3 of those 4 teams have the best 3 farm systems in baseball, so that makes sense why, the Dodgers and the Brewers and the Rays are going to go after him. And hearing the Rays name in there is kind of interesting because they don't spend that kind of money on anybody. So even if they were to trade for him now and him being a rental, he'd still become the highest paid player on that roster, which that's just something the Rays don't typically do. Same can be said for the Brewers, but if there's ever to get out of their own way or their old ways per se, this is the time to do it.
And I mean, the Brewers there have been rumored talks with the Mets about a possible Freddie Peralta reunion. I wonder if there's some pivot there because maybe that'll cost a little less than a Scooble package, which clearly it will, but something to monitor. Like you said, teams like the Rays and Brewers are not known for spending big, whether it's in free agency or at the deadline. So, but again, different type of season when you're looking towards the future heading into next year.
Yep.
Here's not my prediction. Here's me begging anybody but the freaking Dodgers, please.
And honestly, I honestly thought the Brewers had the best chance to get him a couple days ago, just because of the farm system that they can throw at the Tigers in terms of like what they can give back. But after the reports today, I really do think he's going to the Dodgers, and it mainly circles around Shohei not being able to pitch right now.
Yeah.
And Dave Roberts even came out and said the other day they're not sure if Shohei is going to get on a mound anymore this season. Shohei said it himself at the beginning of the season that he felt that coming into this season, this is going to be the last time that he could probably pitch and give a team 100%. So if Dave Roberts is already saying that he's not sure that Shohei can come back and pitch this year, maybe we've seen the last of him as a two-way player.
Yeah, and for the sport of baseball, where you don't see that a lot, you asked how long. We asked how long would he be able to keep it up, and maybe it's just that time where maybe he can't do it anymore. So that'll be something interesting to monitor, especially with this Tara Scooble's front probably coming to an end at some point. What's up, Fighting Philly? Fighting Philly says Scooble's been a Dodger for 2 years. Maybe 3. All right. Next up, number 2. Twins outfielder Byron Buxton. Why Passan has him on this list, I don't know. He's already said he doesn't want to leave Minnesota.
I think now, I mean, he's actually getting injured right now, so that's a par for the course. But up until recently, when those injuries started to happen, Byron Buxton was actually very healthy this year, and he was actually starting to show the type of player he can be when he is fully healthy. And that type of player is a franchise caliber player, a player that the Twins haven't had in their system since. I mean, Joe Mauer was a franchise player, but you can probably even go back to Torrey Hunter. They probably haven't had a player like Buxton since Torrey Hunter was a franchise player. It's very difficult, no matter the situation you're in as an organization, to move on from a franchise caliber player knowing that he is the centerpiece of what you can build your future roster around. I don't foresee the Twins trading Buxton just because the AL Central is not a strong division. They are still very much alive for a division championship in that division. So trading Buxton at that point means you're waving the white flag and giving up on a season where you could win that division with 83 or 84 wins.
That's why Passan has his trade percentage so low. And if like Philly just said, the Twins are probably going to end up being buyers at this deadline.
No, the Twins aren't going to be
So,
buyers. The Twins aren't going to be buyers because Joe Ryan's going to be dealt. There's going to be too many teams that are calling the Twins on Joe Ryan and the packages that the Twins are going to be able to get for Joe Ryan. If he is a Twin on Tuesday morning, it's going to be a complete shock to everybody. So the Twins could be buying because they might have to buy to replace Joe Ryan. But in hindsight, I still think they're going to sell off more than they're going to buy just because they're going to have so many teams interested in Joe Ryan, so many teams interested in Byron Buxton that they're going to have to choose what direction they want, and they're going to stick with Buxton over Joe Ryan.
yeah, I can see that. All right. Speaking, oh, wait, before we get that, best fits that he has for Buxton are Phillies, Padres, Diamondbacks, Braves, Rays, Cardinals, Yankees, Rangers. That's a lot of freaking teams.
That'd be a pretty scary 1-2 punch in Atlanta, though. Him and Acuna at the top.
Yeah, I mean he is the stereotypical right-handed bat the Phillies are looking for, but that actually requires you to have to give something up, which they've been reluctant to do for. Let me think. It's 2026, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 4 or 5 years now.
I mean, if the Phillies trade the Byron Buxton, I don't even know what the Phillies would be able to give back because the Twins aren't going to want a guy like Aaron Nola.
Well, hey, they took Mick Abel for Duran last year. I'll give you Andrew Painter this year.
Yeah.
Hashtag trade the prospects because I'm sick and tired of hearing about them. The Padres, they don't seem to me like a team. I mean, there's still some talks of them dealing Mason Miller because the Padres are psychotic and they do stuff like this. But yet somehow they're still always good.
Yeah, but the problem is the Padres are in salary cap. Well, no such thing as salary cap. The Padres are in financial hell right now. And they made the move last year to get Mason Miller because they felt that move was the move they had to make to put him over the top. Not only did they not get over the top, but they've actually gotten worse. So now you gutted your farm system to get Mason Miller. You didn't win last year. You've gotten worse this year. He is pitching at a historically high level to the point that we haven't seen a reliever do what he's done in God knows how long. If you're going to move on from him, now is the time to move on from him because his value will never be as high as what it is right now. And if you want to replenish your farm system, the quickest way to do that is to unload Miller.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think if you're a team like the Padres where you're an older team, your star players aren't producing to the way they used to, still a good team when it comes to pitching. So it's not like if you trade Mason Miller, you're going to be the worst team in the league at that. You're still going to have a solid pitching in both your starting rotation and the back end of that bullpen. So I think honestly the best fit out of the teams that Bassett has for Buxton, and this is where I'll end on the Buxton front. It's probably the Yankees because outside of Aaron Judge, what other right-handed bat is producing in that lineup?
That's a good point.
I mean, Goldschmidt hits lefties well. Okay, he can't hit right-handers. Judge is still hurt. They need a proven right-handed bat outside of Aaron Judge in that lineup. So, if Buxton is to get traded, and I don't, which I still we don't think he will, the Yankees make the most sense out of all those teams. The Phillies should be the top team, but I don't trust Dave Dombrowski to have common sense after 4 years.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Twins, as you brought up a minute ago, Dustin, Joe Ryan is number 3 on this list. By the way, Buxton, if I didn't mention it earlier, his percentage of chance of being traded is 10%. So Joe Ryan's is 35%. And his top suitors in this order are Cubs, Padres, A's, Diamondbacks, Braves, White Sox, Nationals, Blue Jays, and Cardinals. That's a lot of teams.
Yeah, well, I don't even know why the Cardinals are even thrown in there because the Cardinals are kind of fading fast right now.
That is an interesting group that he has there.
It is very interesting.
Hold on a second. What's going on here? Dustin, you may want to close out and come back in because I can't hear you. You're chopping out on me, so you may have to pop out and pop back in because I am not. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Very well.
But oh, I got you. At least I thought I did. Thought I had him back. All right, hold on 1 second. Let's get this figured out real quick, guys. Apologize for that. Okay.
Can you hear me? I'm still choppy.
Still a little choppy. So say something again.
Because I have very bad feedback on your end when you're talking on my end. Like your microphone sounds like super.
Yeah, you're still. Yeah, you're super staticky on my end.
Interesting. You sound robotic on my end.
See, I'm still. Yeah, still not picking you up very well. But
Let me try one more thing. I'm gonna sign back up. Like, just keep going with
okay.
this.
No, you're good. You're good. So yeah, while Dustin fixes his technical issue real quick, but no, the Joe Ryan thing. There are some very interesting teams here, and if I'm looking at these teams, Cubs make a lot of sense. They just need pitching in general. Padres again, the Padres are in on every elite pitcher that you could think of. They were in on Mason Miller last year, got him. This year they could use Joe Ryan. A team that interests me here is the A's, a team that I had a lot higher expectations for going into the season because I thought their lineup was actually had a lot of potential to be good, but their starting pitching has been dreadful this year. And they could use a frontline starter, and they have the young talent that they could probably swing a deal for Joe Ryan. Arizona, I don't know if Arizona has the pieces that the Twins would want in return. Same thing, maybe Atlanta. The White Sox are a team that I would really like to see get in on this. They are one of the teams that Paston has named for Joe Ryan. I would love to see the White Sox get involved with this because they are a team that you see what they're doing with the bats. I would love to see them get in on Joe Ryan and pull that deal off. Welcome back.
Yeah, I still hear a bunch of static on your end. I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you're very staticky on my end. So, but I was just mentioning, I was talking about with Joe Ryan. I want to see Chicago get in on this.
What was that? You want to repeat that quick? Okay, Sandra, do you want to repeat what you just said quick?
Yeah, you're still coming through very staticky. I still can't get a read on what you're saying. We're having some major technical issues right now. We're having a major of technical issues right now over here on the good old Double H. We apologize, guys, for our technical issues. Usually we don't have this much static in our. So I'm going to be riding it for solo for a second here. So I'm going to continue to roll through this article that I saw real quick. And so, like I said, I want to see Joe Ryan get involved with the White Sox. I think that's the best. If you look at the teams that Paston has named here, I like it. I don't. Blue Jays are rumored to be maybe moving Kevin Gausman. So I don't really know if they're going to be involved in this. I don't see the Cardinals being big time buyers. Arizona, I don't like the fit. The Padres, I don't know why they would do it. The Cubs, I'm not sure what they would offer. My two teams for Joe Ryan, I got to go with the White Sox and the A's. Those have to be my top teams. Now, if we go down to number 4 on this list, it's Mason Miller, of course. We just brought that up with the Padres. His percentage of being traded is 40%. And his best fits are Yankees, Mariners. He has the Phillies and Brewers in those teams as well, along with the Pirates and the Rays. Yankees spent a plethora on back end relievers last year. They got Camilo Duvall, they got Bednar last year. I don't think they're going to be going after the back end of the bullpen right now. The Mariners, maybe. The Phillies are an interesting one because the Phillies bullpen has been, outside of Johan Duran, they've been dreadful. Brad Keller is out for the year. He's probably going to be out for the rest of his contract with the Phillies. Jose Alvarado has not been good. Orion Kirkring has been very up and down from time to time this year. I mean, we just saw the Phillies today. They blew that 6-run lead to the Marlins. So their bullpen is very spotty right now. So I would love to see the Phillies get in on Mason Miller, but what are they offering? They don't have the prospect haul that the Padres would get. Brewers, on the other hand, one of the best farm teams in baseball. Mason Miller, and you add him to that Brewers bullpen, which is already one of the best in baseball. You may not hit the Brewers in October. Pirates, I don't see them getting involved in this. The Rays, same thing. I'm not sure if they're going to want to spend there. So, my top fit for Mason Miller out of these teams is the Brewers. They got the farm system, and you add him to that Brewers pen, it's filthy. All right, so number 5 that Jeff Passan has on this list is A's catcher Shea Langeliers. We are going to skip him because he was placed on the IL with a torn meniscus and is likely to be out for the season. So we're going to skip him. Number 6 is Angel shortstop Zach Neto. Now, the Angels have already made a trade. They traded a reliever and catcher Logan Ohape to the Rangers earlier tonight. I'll talk about that in a second. But Zach Neto, of course, is their starting shortstop. He has a 30% chance of being traded. And his best fits they have are the Red Sox, the Braves, the Blue Jays, the Twins, and the Yankees. A team that is not mentioned here, but Jeff Passan did say this earlier. I believe it was on Sports Center. The Phillies have had conversations with the Angels regarding Zach Neto. So I'm very interested to see if the Phillies are possibly looking to move their infield around. There are some reports that this would involve Alec Bohm being moved and Bryson Stott moving to third, and then having Turner and Neto be your middle infield. Now, I'm not sure how that would work because Bryson Stott's glove is way too valuable up the middle for me because Trey Turner, I don't think Trey Turner couldn't field a ground ball if it was bunted right at him when he's 2 feet away from the plate. Turner was awesome in the field last year. He has been, if anything, average this year. And that's probably being very generous. So, but if I take the Phillies out of the equation, the Red Sox have been looking for some offensive production from the left side of that infield all year. They thought they got it in Curtis Mead, and of course, he broke his wrist not even 6 innings into his Red Sox career. So the Braves, maybe. The Braves just don't seem like big buyers for me. I feel like they're still going to just be there and they're still going to be good. So I don't feel like the Braves are going to really be big time buyers. They'll make some marginal moves, but I don't see them making the big splash. Blue Jays, they make a lot of sense. The Bo Bichette loss is still killing that team's lineup. The Twins are Dusty, you're good, brother. It's all good. You're all good. But the Twins are on this. They make a little bit of sense. And then, of course, they have the Yankees here as well. Yankees have had a black hole at shortstop, seems like, for since Didi Gregorius left. Caballero is a good, solid defender at the plate, just okay. We know what Anthony Volpe is or isn't. So for Zach Neto, I got to be real. The two top teams out of this would probably be the Red Sox or the Yankees for me. Next up is a name that just started to float around a little bit over the past week, I'd say, and that was Astros shortstop Jeremy Pena. He has a 35% chance of being traded, according to Jeff Passan. And his best fits are, once again, Braves, Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and Rays. Again, if you're a team that needs a left side of the infield pop, I get it. Red Sox make a lot of sense. Yankees still make a lot of sense. Again, Blue Jays make sense. The Braves, I still don't see the Braves making a big splash this summer. I don't see it. I think the Braves are content because honestly, I don't think any of the teams in the Braves division are good enough right now to catch them. The Phillies are leaking oil at the worst possible time right now. And yes, the Marlins swept the Phillies. That would not be hard to do right now at this point in the season. But I have to say, I think the Braves could just stand pat and win this division because I don't think any of the teams behind them are catching them. A very interesting one here is Hunter Goodman, the catcher for the Rockies, and he's a power hitting catcher. 3 more years of team control after 2026. 15% chance of getting traded, according to Jeff Passan. And here's the interesting one. He has the Yankees, Red Sox, the Rangers, the Rays, and the Phillies as potential fits for Hunter Goodman. And the funny thing that I find out with this is, first of all, I don't think Hunter Goodman's getting traded at all. I think he's going to be a key rebuilding piece for that Rockies franchise. Yes, I know the Rockies have been one of baseball's worst teams over the past, it feels like, decade. But I don't think Hunter Goodman's getting traded. But if there were, I find it interesting that the Phillies are involved here. Because let's be real. I know how valuable he's been behind the plate for his entire career in Philadelphia. JT Realmuto is not worth paying $15 million a year for the next 3 seasons. As soon as the Phillies knew they weren't getting Bo Bichette, they pivoted right back to JT Realmuto. They paid him everything that he wanted. That contract's looking atrocious right now. JT's been banged up all year. He can't stay in the lineup. He's been hurt. He cannot stay healthy right now. And he's a 35-year-old catcher. That does not translate and get better over time. So I wonder if this is the Phillies trying to figure out we need an impact everyday right-handed bat. And if we're not going to get it in the outfield, we'll put it somewhere else. There's also been rumors of Bryce Harper saying he would move back to the outfield if the Phillies were to look at a first baseman. Now, that was a couple off seasons ago, but I still think that option's also still on the table. So I wonder if this is the Phillies trying to get creative and finding their right-handed power hitting bat. Because let's be real, the only consistent right-handed hitters in that Phillies lineup right now is Alec Bohm and JT Realmuto, and neither of them are producing to the point where you want. It just isn't happening. Another interesting name on this list, again, it's National shortstop CJ Abrams, who Paston thinks has a 25% chance of being dealt. And the rumor teams in on him are the Braves, the Rays, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays. And if you're the Nationals, why? That would be two-thirds of your big return for Juan Soto. And CJ Abrams is a player you want to build around. I don't understand why you would deal a guy like that. If you're the Nationals, him and James Wood, both perennial all-star players, they already traded Mackenzie Gore away in this and he was one of the returns in the Juan Soto package. So I don't know why the Nationals would trade CJ Abrams. He's turned into having one of the better seasons at the plate in his entire career, and he's been one of the better shortstops in baseball this year. But I'm not going to give my thoughts on the teams because every single team that are potential fits for CJ Abrams, I've talked about already with the other 4 or 5 shortstops we talked about tonight. But speaking of infielders, here's one that highest percentage of being traded so far, and that is Luis Arraez, second baseman for the Giants. 95% chance to be traded, and his best fits are Rays, Nationals, Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Guardians, Pirates. Here's the thing. Luis Arraez is not a great fielder at any position he plays, but the one lost art in this entire sport over the past decade, everybody clamors to guys with good launch angle and guys that hit the ball 500 feet into the stands. What happened to the guys that just hit for contact and hit 300 consistently throughout a season and get on base because they put up 175 to 190 hits a season? Luis Arraez, to me, is one of the most undervalued players because he doesn't have power. So what? Do you know what you have to do? You literally have to have guys get on base, put the ball in play. And that's why Luis Arraez is so valuable. So, personally, for Luis Arraez, my favorite fit out of those teams, hmm, this is tough. I'm not saying the Dodgers. I'm trying not to give the Dodgers one player at the deadline. They don't need anything. I feel like that's a move Tampa Bay would make. Just a guy that comes in, puts the ball in play. I like that. I really think that's a good chance. So I like Luis Arraez being in Tampa Bay. I think that's a good fit for him. Guy just comes in, puts the ball in play. They already got thumpers in that lineup with Aranda and Caminero. Get a guy in there that puts the ball in play. That's where I'm liking Luis Arraez going to Tampa Bay there. Yeah, Dustin, another team that could use a guy that just puts the ball in play because everyone's so in love with home runs and launch angles and all this other crap. It's just I'm so sick of it. We need guys that just put the ball in play. And personally, I like Luis Ariz for some of those American League East teams. All right. So I'm going to start skipping around here. Reed Depner's is the next one on this list, but I'm going to start skipping around here a little bit. Here's a high profile one. Now, this is number 12 on Passan's list because he doesn't have a very high percentage chance of getting traded. Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor, who is owed 5 more years after this season at $32 million a year. Now, he's only got a 15% chance of getting moved. And the best fits that he has for him are the Blue Jays, literally the entire AL East. The Blue Jays, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Braves. I really wonder, this is a move that makes me think, are the Mets going in a different direction where it's Juan Soto and all the young players? Or is this the Mets looking into the future and thinking, okay, we don't know what the salary cap situation in baseball could be or won't be or may not be. There may be a salary cap next year. And not only the teams that are above that threshold, they're going to have a lot of issues with big contracts. Could this be the Mets trying to get ahead of the curve and moving a big contract so they don't have to worry about it in the future? That's what it sounds like. Now, if Lindor's not having the greatest season of his career, it's been a down year for Francisco Lindor, but it's been a down year for the Mets for the past 2 years. But if I had to think of one of those teams, Lindor feels like a Yankee. Even though I think Zach Neto and guys like that may be better fits, Lindor feels like a Yankee. I don't know why. Now, the Mets and the Yankees, I'm not sure how their dealings would be, but it feels like he would be a Yankee. Because we are so used to the Yankees being that team that just makes the big splash. No matter who it is, we're getting them. They haven't been that lately. Yes, they traded for Juan Soto, but the problem was Juan Soto left after a year. I feel like this could be the Yankees trying to get back into the swing of being the Yankees. And let me see what you said, Dustin. The Mets are begging someone to offer them a hot dog better to move on from Bichette. No way they want to. Oh, well, Dustin, I'm not upset about losing out on Bo Bichette now. Bo Bichette's been dreadful for the Mets, but I don't think anybody's going to take on Bo Bichette in that money, especially when he has those opt-out clauses. Have fun with that. All right, next up on this list is Red Sox starter Sonny Gray. I'm going to skip him because personally, I don't think the Red Sox are going to be sellers. The Red Sox have been hot over the past month. I mean, they had that big winning streak. I'm not even going to bring up Sonny Gray because I don't think they're going to trade him. Even Passan has him at a 20% chance. I highly doubt that happens. Same thing for Wilson Contreras, who's next on his list. Don't think Contreras is getting moved either. Adley Rutschman's another interesting name. I mean, again, another catcher the Phillies are linked to, but they also have the Rangers, the Reds, the Pirates, the Twins, the Padres, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. I wonder if the Rangers are still going to add another catcher because they did just acquire Logan O'Hoppe from the Angels. Now, they did option him to AAA shortly after the deal was made, but I wonder if the Rangers are still looking for help at catcher even after making the O'Hoppe move. No, another one. Here's another one that has a very high percentage of getting moved, and it's actually not Tarik Skubal. It's another Tiger starter. It's Casey Mize. Mize has a 60% chance of getting traded at this year's deadline, and another plethora of teams' interest that are his best fits: Atlanta, San Diego, the Cubs, the Brewers again, the White Sox, the A's, the Cardinals, the Rays, the Diamondbacks, the Blue Jays. I may go with Atlanta here. This is where I think Atlanta may strike. I think they just need another solid innings eater in their starting rotation. Of course, their rotation is pummeled by injuries. It's Chris Sale, and that's about consistency wise. That's about it. But I like Atlanta there. I think that makes a lot of sense for the Braves to look at Casey Mize. Next one, you guys, Clay Holmes with the Mets. He has a 90% chance to get traded. Young Ho Lee's another one. He's got a 40% chance of being traded. Kevin Gausman's got a 35% chance of getting traded. Where's Gausman's best fits? White Sox, a reunion with the Braves would be kind of funny for Kevin Gausman. Chapman comes in at number 20. I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't think the Red Sox are going to do it. Josh Hader. This is 2-3 years ago. I'd be all over Josh Hader, but here's an interesting one. Sandy Alcantara. He's got a 25% chance to get moved. Best fits are the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Rays, the Braves, the White Sox, the Brewers. I really don't know if I'm the Marlins if I would do this. The Marlins, yes, they had that 12-game losing streak, but they just got back over 500 today, sweeping the Phillies. They're still going to be in the thick of things. I wonder if the Marlins would consider holding on to Sandy Alcantara at this point and seeing if they could get back into the wild card hunt because, I mean, they're 8.5 out of the NL East. The Braves are still holding that, but they're only 2 games out of a wild card spot. So if I'm the Marlins, even after the 12-game losing streak, why would I trade Sandy? I mean, so personally, if I'm the Marlins here, I'm hanging on to Alcantara. I don't think I'm want to because the one thing, I mean, he's 11-6 this year. Excuse me. 3.82 ERA. He's coming off a really good start against the Phillies. He went 7 shutout innings, struck out 5. And yeah, if I'm the Marlins, I'm hanging on Sandy. I'm going to go for this thing. Get into the dance, see what happens. Dustin said Clay Holmes will be a Chicago Cub by Monday. 65% ground ball rate in front of that infield makes too much sense. Yeah, Dustin, that's if you're the Cubs, you're looking for anybody that has high ground ball rate because that Cubs infield can pick it. I'm just going to start rolling through some of the more interesting names here. Oh, dear God. So that kind of wraps it up for his top, what was that, top 25. Another interesting name could be Freddie Peralta. Like I said earlier, there are rumors of the Mets and Brewers being in talks to see if that would be something. The Mets have a couple interesting trade chips. Luke Weaver's another one. I've heard the Phillies linked to him. Wonder if the Phillies would try to find a way to get involved in that and try to get a back end reliever to help out Johan Duran because outside of Duran, the Phillies bullpen's been a mess. It continues to be a mess. Joe Adell's another right-handed hitting outfielder for a team. If you're struggling against left-handed pitching, maybe he could help you. And yeah, honestly, outside of that, there's a lot of solid names, but not a bunch of names that I would be kicking the door down for. Some solid players, but the top 25 is kind of where it's at. I think there's going to be a lot of activity. And yeah, I think that we potentially could see a lot of activity between now and Monday's deadline because with the uncertainty of what's coming in baseball after this season, I really think that I think we could see teams go for it. That's why I think some teams may hang on to their pieces, like I just said with the Red Sox. I don't think they're going to trade Sonny Gray. I don't think they're going to trade Aroldis Chapman or Wilson Contreras. I don't think the Marlins are going to trade Sandy Alcantara. I think they're going to hang on to these players because they have a shot. Because we know when it comes to any postseason in sports, college basketball, college football playoff with the new format, baseball, the NBA, whatever. If you get in the playoffs at the right time and you're playing your best ball, it doesn't matter what seed you are. If you're hot, you're hot. And then guess what? You could ride that momentum all the way to a championship. It's how it's been done for years in sports. It's not about who had the best record or who had the best team on paper. It always comes down to who is playing their best ball when the postseason starts. And that goes in any sport. it doesn't matter on paper what your roster looks like. And Dustin, you said funny thing is, not only are the Mets and Brewers discussing Peralta, but the name being discussed is Jet Williams, who the Brewers got as part of that deal. Dustin, if the Peralta Mets deal gets going with the Brewers, that would be hilarious. What a full circle moment. And watch, Freddie comes back and just looks like Freddie Peralta again because the Brewers they fix any pitcher you could think of. All right, so I'm going to dive into some of the other little tidbits of news that we've had over the past week. So we did have another trade get swung this week. I talked about it a second ago. Red Sox acquired Curtis Mead for starting pitcher Connelly Early. And at first, I actually liked this deal for both sides. Nationals get another starter, and I mean, Early he's on the IL with some elbow issues right now, but he was having a pretty strong year for the Red Sox. 17 games started, 7-5, a 3.44 ERA, 1.25 WHIP, 93 strikeouts, and 91 and two-thirds innings. Only 24 years old. And the Red Sox, they went and got Curtis Mead in the deal, which, again, Curtis Mead traded for another left-handed starting pitcher in his career. For anybody who didn't know, Curtis Mead was the prospect the Phillies sent to the Rays back in 2021 for, some guy you've probably heard of by the name of Christopher Sanchez. But Mead was having a very productive year in Washington this year. I mean, he was in 87 games. He was hitting 254 with 17 home runs, 48 runs batted in. And I really liked this trade for the Red Sox strictly just because the Red Sox have been looking for some type of production on the left side of their infield, especially with how bad of a hitter Caleb Durbin's been this year. And I think the hope was that Mead would come in and be that guy. The problem is he's on the IL with a freaking wrist injury now. He he's likely to have avoided surgery on it, but he literally got hit on the wrist in his first game, and now the Red Sox don't have Early, and they don't have Mead now either. So, could the Red Sox jump back into the deadline and look for another infielder? Because we don't know how long Curtis Mead's going to be out. Do they call the Astros and see what? Because another name that Passett had on that list was Isaac Paredes. Now I'm not sure if Paredes fits in Boston because of the Green Monster, but do they call and see what they could do? Because they need another infielder now because Mead's hurt, and again, not sure how much time he's going to miss. So it'll be very interesting to see. And I think the Nationals came out great. They traded away Mackenzie Gore this past offseason to the Rangers, and now they get Early to replace him in the rotation after half the season. So I think the Nationals are probably going to end up being the winners of this trade. I thought Mead was a good pickup for the Red Sox, but now that he can't play, doesn't look good. I honestly, it kind of sucks that he got hurt his first game in Boston. I don't even know if he got through 5 innings before he got hit on his wrist. But I think this is going to force the Red Sox to have to jump back into the infield market and see if they can make something work. Because all the guys that they were thinking of trading, I mean, now they're not. They've had that huge win streak, and they're right back into the thick of things in the American League. So, I mean, Sonny Gray's been the anchor of that rotation with Garrett Crochet being out for most of the year. Contreras was an all-star this year. He's had a great year at the plate. And Aroldis Chapman, if Mason Miller's been the best relief pitcher in baseball over the past 2 years, Aroldis Chapman's probably number 2 or 3. I mean, at his age to still throw that type of gas, it's truly impressive. So that was the trade between the Red Sox and Nationals that went down. Loved it on paper when it happened, but now for the Red Sox, tough break. I mean, Early with his elbow, I mean, the Nationals want to shut him down. I mean, they're not playing for much, so I mean, I get it. Still 24 years old, young kid. Showed a lot of promise, though, this year in Boston. And with the injury to Garrett Crochet, I'm surprised they gave him up. After already dealing away Kyle Harrison to the Brewers in the offseason and looking what the Brewers did with him, to trade another left-handed starter away just like that, I get it. You had to get another infielder because Caleb Durbin has been awful at the plate, and Curtis Mead is a definite upgrade at the plate over Caleb Durbin. But I'm just very surprised that they gave up on early. I mean, he's having a pretty damn solid year so far before he went on the IL with that elbow issue. Another tough bit of baseball news also is that Shea Langeliers, who was also on Jeff Passan's top 100 trade candidates, but again, we skipped over him because he is projected to miss the rest of the season with a torn meniscus in his knee. Now, there is a slim glimmer of optimism that maybe he could return, but I mean, it sucks for Langoliers. He was having a tremendous year. 93 games, 263, 829 OPS, 23 homers, 50 RBIs. He was an all-star. He was having a very strong year for the A's. And honestly, the A's have been so disappointing for me this year because I knew they didn't have a lot of pitching. That's why I'm glad I see them on a lot of the lists for like starting pitching help. But we knew the A's came into the year. They don't have a lot of pitching. But I will say, I thought they would be a lot better because of that lineup. Langoliers, great player. Brett Rooker, Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz is going to be a freaking superstar, by the way. He's hitting 260 this year, 21 homers, 69 RBIs. Still think he's going to have a phenomenal career. Brian, I'm in agreement with you, but it's not about your team. It's about my trade everybody, including the president of baseball operations. I'm saying I'm sick of my players playing GM too, by the way. I'm sick of all of it. But Brian, I agree. The Mets got to sell off what they can. So if you can get something for Peralta, do it. Devin Williams, do it. Luke Weaver, who's having a tremendous year, you do it. You move off these guys. You try to replenish your farm system a little bit. You tried to revamp the roster. You tried going for it with a new look. It didn't work. It is what it is. The Mets it didn't work for them this year. So hopefully maybe you just get some prospects back, move forward with Soto, and let the young kids come up and play. That's all you can do. Noah McLean's going to be the ace of that team's future because he's got filthy stuff. Trade as much as you can. Yeah, Brian, I just brought this up a few moments ago. I think a lot of it has to do because, again, when the Mets put out basically who's untouchable, Lindor wasn't mentioned. Now, could there be some decline in his play that's causing them to say this? Sure. But again, I think a lot of it has to do with because of not knowing what is coming in Major League Baseball with this new CBA. What kind of is there going to be a salary cap? What is that going to look like? And remember, all these contracts are going to be grandfathered in. You can't just null these contracts if a salary cap is put on there. I will say though, comfortably, for all the teams that have high payrolls, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Mets, the Yankees, they're in trouble if a cap is put in because they're all going to be over the damn thing. So could this be the Mets trying to get ahead of that curve and saying, well, let's get rid of Lindor's money so we can figure out the rest a little easier. I think that's what the Mets are doing here. I still think Lindor's a productive player. I still think Lindor's a good player. Still one of the better shortstops we've ever seen in the game. But I think this is the Mets trying to get ahead of something here. I really do. Because there's a salary cap. There are some teams with high payrolls where it's going to be a mess. And plus, I still think the Mets would get a decent haul with Lindor, too. Yeah, Brian, I've heard there's been some locker room friction between him and Soto. I've heard that they're not the biggest fans. Plus, I still think I think there's a sour taste in Lindor's mouth with how they treated that team that got to the NLCS. You know, you bring in Juan Soto, and then immediately 1 year into it, they get rid of everybody. They get rid of Pete Alonso. They get rid of Brandon Nimmo, which I think were two of the stupidest moves the Mets could have done. Do you want to know why the 2024 Mets got to the NLCS? Because Alonso, Nimmo, Lindor, and all those guys hit. And their starting pitching, they didn't have an ace. They didn't have a Zach Wheeler. They didn't have a Jacob Mizorowski. They didn't have a Freddie Peralta. But they had five guys that could give you 6 innings a night. Severino that year, Manaya, Quintana. They had guys that were giving you 6 innings every night. Do you know what happened in 2025 when they brought that team back and then added Juan Soto, which should have been the piece to put them over the top and got them to the World Series? That starting rotation that was giving you those 6 innings every night, it didn't happen again. Severino left, Quintana left, Manaea got hurt. So the Mets, in my opinion, they chose to go with a different approach. I don't think it worked. And well, it definitely didn't work, but I think they did it too quick. I think they kind of screwed themselves. Why trade Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien? Marcus Semien hasn't been a productive player since he left the freaking A's. Unless you want to count the little bit of time he was in Toronto. He has not been a productive player for years. Polanco was a good player in Seattle. Yes, because he was playing in a lineup with Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and all those guys. And Eugenio Suarez. He's not going to come here and be a 35 and 100 guy. He's never been that guy. He's been, even back when he was young and he was in Minnesota with those stacked lineups with Nelson Cruz at the end of his career. And guys like that. Like, I don't understand why they thought you could just bring in a bunch of decent. Now, Bo Bichette's the biggest disappointment. That's without a doubt. Bo Bichette should be a lot better. But I just personally think the Mets, they waved the white flag on that 2024 team way too quick. You should have just ran back that lineup again, tried to add some pieces around it, and saw what you could have done. I also don't like the whole playing guys where they don't play. I don't like Bo Bichette playing third. I don't like Polanco playing first. If you want a first baseman, then re-sign the guy you let go. Or trade for Christian Walker. Do something like that. I can't stand teams that just sign a bunch of infielders like, oh, you're going to play here. These guys aren't playing third base a day in his career, and he's going to play it every day. That stuff doesn't work all the time. That's why when there's this rumor going around that the Phillies have spoke to the Angels about Zach Neto. Who's playing where? All right, and Brian, what you got for me here? If there is baseball next season, there's only going to be like 70 games, but that's talk for. Oh, Brian, we are going to be covering the Major League Baseball offseason all winter. And remember something. I just want to say this real quickly to everybody watching. The key date, the bargaining agreement is up in December. That is not the date you need to be worried about. The date you have to be worried about is the second week in March. If we can get a CBA done by the middle of March, we can still have 2.5 to 3 weeks of spring training, and we can get a regular season in on time and have all 162 games. So do not get disgruntled. Oh my God, it's December and they're in a lockout. It's going to happen. There will be no deal in December. I will guarantee that right now. If Dustin wasn't having technical issues tonight, he'd be in agreement with me. There will not be a CBA agreement in December. It will not happen. If we can, but I will not get concerned until we are in that area of March where we lose games. Still a glimmer of hope. I'm not saying to be hopeful, but there's still a glimmer. Now trying to put the optimism in there real quick. But back to my whole thing on the Oakland A's or the Sacramento A's. Very disappointing this year, 45 and 62. And I thought with all that offensive talent that they have with Shea Langeliers, who, like we said, is expected to miss the rest of the season with that torn meniscus, with all the talent they have with him, Nick Kurtz, they added Jeff McNeil for some veteran presence. Jacob Wilson, who is still a very good player, but some of their guys like Lawrence Butler, I thought he would have had a bigger year. He's had a very disappointing year. I mean, Denzel Clark, who is, again, another young outfielder who's banged up this year. Tyler Soderstrom, like they have the bats and the A's have the bats to compete. It's just they have no pitching. And I mean, Brent Rooker also out for the year with a knee injury. Like they have been banged up this year with some of their big time hitters, but the Shea Langeliers one sucks because all-star first half he was an all-star. He was having a great season, and it just sucks to see that he got hurt. And again, the A's have been probably one of my biggest disappointments this year because it sucks to see that a team with so much young talent, especially at the plate, and they just can't figure it out. And now they're getting banged up all over the place. It's really unfortunate because I just really was excited about this A's team. I had them as one of my sleeper teams. They were one of my sleeper teams. And it just really does suck that now it's just not going to be their year. And they're, because I mean, again, the bats are there. They don't have the arms. That's the unfortunate thing. They don't have the arms to compete. So that's some unfortunate news for the A's to lose their all-star catcher. I mean, it does suck. And then our last little bit of news that we have for tonight is out in the windy city of Chicago. And Dustin, I'm sure, would love to give his thoughts on this. Jameson Taillon was DFA'd by the Cubs this week. Taillon was in the final year of his deal with the Cubs, and it has been rough. This year, Taillon in 15 games started with Chicago posted a 2-6 record with a 5.92 ERA with a 1.36 WHIP, and in 76 innings, he had allowed 25 home runs. Taillon, look, once was one of the higher touted pitching prospects in Pittsburgh almost a decade ago. Had a couple strong type years with the Yankees, went to Chicago, got a nice contract, and had pitched well the previous 2 years. I mean, he won 12 games in 2024, 3.27 ERA. ERA jumped up to 3.68 last year, but still in 23 starts, won 11 games. But the strikeout numbers started to dip, the velos started to dip, and this year it got ugly. The long ball became an issue for him, and unfortunately, he was DFA'd by the Cubs. So this is why the Cubs are desperately looking for starting pitching. They've had a rough year with their starting pitchers in terms of inconsistencies and injuries. So hopefully they can add a starting pitcher at the deadline. It will be interesting to see who they get involved with, if they do with anybody. The Cubs are still in the thick of things in the Central and in the just in the postseason picture in general. I mean, there's still hope. There's still hope. They're holding the top wild card spot right now. They're right up there with the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. Of course, the Phillies wild card lead is diminishing as I speak. But and personally, if anybody wants my opinion on the Phillies, I'd sell anybody that be willing to be sold. I don't care anymore. This team is heading for purgatory and probably a worse rebuild than the last one they tried to do. Which, by the way, can I just say this right now? After the days of Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, and Ryan Howard, let me just break some news to you guys. The Philadelphia Phillies did not rebuild. They got out of that rebuild with like one good player, and that was Aaron Nola. Nobody else from those rebuilding years are left on the team. The team got better because Bryce Harper signed with the Phillies. And they started adding players that like JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, Zach Wheeler. They didn't rebuild. They had like one guy out of the rebuild, and now he stinks. And Bryce Harper's clearly the age is starting to get to him. He's probably going to miss his entire age 34 season next year because of a lockout. He ain't getting any younger. If I were the Phillies, I consider selling. And I mean anything is on the table for that because this thing is a mess. And I know, the whole Mattingly and Harper going back and forth about like, oh, Bryce says they need help. Mattingly didn't like that. Here's where I'm going to split it right down the middle for both sides. Don Mattingly, I get it. You're a manager. You got to protect the players that are on your club in your clubhouse. I get that. The problem is that Don Mattingly doesn't understand. He's only been in the building with the Phillies since spring training of this year. This roster, since the 2022 World Series, has gotten easily worse every single year. It gets more inconsistent every year. The postseason ends quicker every year. We lost in the World Series, lost in the NLCS, and now we're not getting out of the divisional round. So, yes, Don, they do need help. However, it's not a great look for Bryce saying that because those are his teammates. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't agree with either side. I could care less. But if I were the Phillies, they won't do it. They'll sign their marginal right-handed bat who will hit 160 for the time that they're here. They'll add some type of a middle-tier reliever that'll have an ERA over 5. It's the same. It's rinse and repeat. But yeah, if I were the Phillies, I would strongly consider selling. And yes, I am saying that. I would strongly consider selling because I don't see the light at the end of this tunnel. I do. The problem is it's not a good light. But all right, even though I'm riding solo tonight, you already know what I got to try to do. Co-host ain't here. If he wants to try to come back, he can. But if he can't, I understand. I'm going to take on the damn grid. And if I got to take it on the damn grid by myself, I will do such a damn thing. So this week's grid is an interesting one. On the left-hand side, you have Dodgers, Pirates, White Sox, and on the top end, you have Guardians, 100 RBI season, and a 300 plus batting average for a season. Dustin, if you cannot get back on the show, you can always get your comments up and help me the heck out because this is going to be very interesting. And anybody who's watching at home, you want to comment in, give me an answer, we'll knock this out. So I kind of want to start this off White Sox and Guardians. Because you could go a lot of ways here. You could go a ton of different ways here with a lot of this. White Sox have had a lot of good players in their history. But I think where I'm going to start off here, I see this is very unique. I've never had to go against a grid by myself, so this is very interesting. I gotta be quick on my feet here. Because if I'm not, I'd be in trouble. All right, so let's start with White Sox and Guardians, and let's just go very easy. If I could spell. Let's go with Jim Thome. Just the most common sense answer of the entire thing. Now, let's continue to roll through here. We have 100 RBI season and 300 plus batting average for the White Sox. There's options there. There's a lot of options there. All right, you know what? We're going to go with I'm going to go here. Hold on. We're going to go with, I know for a fact that this guy drove in 100 runs at least once in his career. We'll go Paul Konerko there. We'll go Paulie Konerko. And then 300 plus batting average. I'm just seeing if I got any messages from my co-host, but I think I'm riding the solo ship for the rest of the night, which is more than okay. I am more than okay with that. This is interesting. White Sox that hit 300. I don't think they had to hit 300 with the White Sox. But I'm not willing to take that risk. I'm not willing to take the risk of guessing who I want to guess because this damn grid, and Dustin could back me up on this grid has screwed us a lot when it comes to this stuff. So I, for one, don't want to go on here and guess something that gets me screwed out of my guesses because I want to try to beat this thing 9 for 9. That's the goal all the time. You always want to try to take it out at least once or twice without having to have the extra guesses. All right. So I'm going to take a very wild stab here. Let's take a stab at AJ Przinsky. There you go. So there's our whole first row. We got Jim Thome, Paul Konerko, AJ Przinsky. So now we move on to the rest of it. So Pirates 300 batting average season. That I could say McCutchen. I could say Starling Marte. But I want to go back a little bit. I want to show some of my baseball knowledge off tonight. I'm going Dave Parker. I'm going with some Dave Parker tonight. And then for 100 RBI season with the Pirates, I mean, come on, let's not go and make this too hard on ourselves. Let's go with Willie Stargell. Now I need a Guardian and a Pirate. All right, so that's actually going to be a very interesting one because I'm trying to think of somebody who's pitched in Cleveland, who's played in Cleveland and in Pittsburgh. And actually, I think I just got a sick guess in the back of my head. I'm going to go take a wild stab. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so I took a stab with Lonnie Chisenhall. I swore Lonnie Chisenhall played for both Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I took a very risky stab there, which ended up costing me my perfect grid. But hold on a second. Let me just explain to you guys how bad these grids are. Because, and hold on, I think I may have reinforcements on the way. Are you there, good sir?
I am, because I got breaking news for you.
What is it?
The Cubs have just become the front runner for Tarik Skubal, and they are discussing a deal as we speak.
Hold that thought. Damn, I should have had the breaking news in before you said that.
So I don't know what the Cubs decided they wanted to give up, but obviously they're willing to give up something for these teams to be talking.
All right, well.
And this makes sense now that I thought about it. What is the one thing the Dodgers can't do consistently?
Not the fur money?
They can't hit left-handers consistently.
No, I mean,
You go into the playoffs now. The Cubs can go Tarik Skubal, Matthew Boyd, Shota Imanaga, 3 lefties.
yeah, I mean, go look what the Phillies did to them last year with Luzardo and Sanchez.
Yep.
All right, Dustin, I'm going to need your help. I got screwed because I thought that I had a very unique guess for the Pirates and Guardians. I guessed Lonnie Chisenhall. Here's the problem. The Pirates acquired Lonnie Chisenhall from the Guardians, but he never played a game. He got cut in spring training.
Yeah. See, then you're wrong. He's got to play the game.
Well, I didn't know that. So guess what? The grid beat us this week. But since you're here, help me get these last 4 slots, damn it.
100 RBI season for the Dodgers. Put Freddie Freeman, just because I like Freddie Freeman.
Who doesn't like Freddie Freeman?
300 batting average. Put Jackie Robinson.
Look at that photo.
So we got Guardians and Dodgers.
Guardians and Pirates.
Guardians and Dodgers. Guardians and Pirates.
I'm glad I'm not struggling. I'm not the only one struggling with this.
I feel like there's an obvious one that I'm missing for the Guardians and Dodgers right now. I feel like it was a trade that happened the last few years. I want to say it was a
Didn't
pitcher.
hold on? Didn't Ronnie Belliard play on both the Dodgers and Cleveland?
I know he played on Cleveland, but I'm not sure about the Dodgers.
Well, I mean, look, we're going to get extra guesses. I'm willing to take the risk.
Okay, you can take that risk.
I'm going with Ronnie Belliard. I'm pretty sure he played for both. You're freaking welcome.
Okay, the one that I was thinking of is Ahmed Rosario.
Hmm.
'Cause Ahmed
Ahmed Rosario.
Rosario was with the Dodgers, and the Dodgers traded him to the Guardians.
All right. All right. So now we need a Guardian and a Pirate. I cannot believe that I messed that up.
I mean, it's a good guess. You just didn't get it right because he didn't play after the spring training.
I'm so mad about that. All right. So now we need
Oh,
somebody to play for the.
what about Kenny Lofton?
Did Kenny play in Pittsburgh?
Kenny Lofton, I believe, played 15 games with the Pirates, if I remember correctly. I think it was very early in his career.
You know what? We got guesses. Who cares? Yes. Damn. If only I would. If damn, I should. I'm a little mad about that now.
And you want to know how I remember that? Kenny Lofton joined the Chicago Cubs in 2003 with Randall Simon for their NLCS run, and they were both in Pittsburgh at the time. Because they also got Aramis Ramirez as part of that deal.
Oh, Ramis Ramirez. There's a freaking name for you.
Did you discuss the JMO at all or no?
Oh, a Taillon?
Yeah.
I brought up a little bit, but if you want to give your thoughts on it, feel free to.
Yeah, my 2 cents on it is well, more than 2 cents on it, but it was a long time coming, and I think it was well overdue. When the Cubs signed him 3.5 years ago, it was I'm not gonna say it was a great signing, but for 4 years at $68 million, when you look at what starting pitchers are going for nowadays, that's not a bad contract. First year, he was injured half the season and was not very good. Second season with the Cubs, he was good. Last year, he was amazing down the stretch and even won 2 playoff games. And then for whatever reason, this year he just couldn't find it. Gave up what 30 home runs already this year. ERA is approaching
25
7. Yep.
in
ERA is
76 innings.
Yep. ERA is approaching I think 7. I think it's like a 6.86 right now. For a team that wants to make a deep playoff run, you can't be counting on him every fourth or fifth day to even give you a quality start at this point.
I completely agree.
And
Even
by
Jose, thank you for checking.
getting rid of him, that is 100% guaranteeing that the Cubs are trading for a starter.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Jose in the comments, our Phillies have been disappointing lately, a hot mess. Well, Jose, first of all, thank you for checking out the show. Greatly appreciate that. And oh, yes, they have. And unless there are like big trade deadline acquisitions coming with their farm system or the lack thereof, I don't know how you fix this because your stars look like they're all getting older by the second. And how do you fix that? Like trade deadline acquisitions aren't going to save that. It's been the same story with the Phillies over the past 4 years. It doesn't matter what acquisitions you get. If the stars don't hit in October, you're going to lose. It's been the same story since the 2022 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so weirdly, Dustin, I brought this up earlier, like again, when you were having your technical difficulties, there's been talks with them apparently with Zach Neto. How's that going to work?
Someone's getting dealt. It's either going to be Alec Boehm getting dealt. Zach Neto's going to third. Or Zach Neto goes to second and they try to put Bryson Stott at third.
Yeah, because I mean, now see, I hate that because Stott's glove up the middle is so valuable, especially with the year Trey Turner's had in the middle of the field. He's been dreadful.
Or you put Neto at short and you move Turner to third.
Hi, I'd like to book the House of Horrors, please.
Or do you put Turner at second?
I want to put Turner in the outfield.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Why? He's played it
Because
before,
he has, but
and he's
I can
got the
see
speed to do it.
Turner honestly going to second if
But
they
yeah,
end
because
up getting
I think
Neto.
yeah, and it's not like he hasn't done that before. He played second in LA for a little bit.
Yep.
Him and Seager were mismatching out there for a little bit. But no, and I think the reason this comes down is people could say, "Oh, well, getting Neto makes no sense." I am telling you right now, from what I have seen, they do not want to pay Alec Boehm at the end of this season.
No, they don't.
He's not the player they thought he was going to be. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a fine player. He would be where he would be great? He would be good on a team like the Diamondbacks because the media market's not as crazy. The fan base, not that Diamondback fans are awesome. I'm not trying to knock Diamondback fans, but it's not Philly. There's a lot of pressure to playing in Philly, especially as a third baseman. We remember what happened with Scott Rowland.
Yep.
But personally, this is them trying to figure out the future while improving the present. Because as Alec Boehm, fine player. I'm sick of the temper tantrums. I'm sick of throwing the bat when I strike out. I'm sick of throwing the helmet when I hit into a double play. Dude, it's baseball. It happens. Bryce Harper had two men on, down by two in game 7 against the Diamondbacks, and he flew out to center field on a ball that, if he was on time with, would have sent the ball over the damn batter's eye in center. Missed it by about 3 inches. He didn't throw his bat in frustration. The maturity things with Alec Boehm, I think, are finally gotten to where the Phillies are just like, we can't stand this anymore. And I don't think they're not going to want to pay him. So I will be
So
very
remember when I just brought up
interested.
that Kenny Lofton? Remember when I just brought up that Kenny Lofton trade to you?
Yes.
This is who the Cubs got in this Kenny Lofton trade. They got Kenny Lofton and Aramis Ramirez. Plus, the Pirates actually gave the Cubs cash. Who knew the Pirates actually had extra cash laying around? And the Cubs gave the Pittsburgh Pirates Jose Hernandez, Matt Berubek, and Bobby Hill.
That's a interesting trade.
That's what you call a steal of a trade for one side, and a why in the hell did we do this on the other side?
Again, that's a very interesting.
I think I'm just more impressed that the Pirates actually gave the Cubs cash. Who knew they had any cash at one point?
Jose said, dude, I would trade Boehm for Rafael Devers in a heartbeat. I don't know about that.
I wouldn't go that far.
Now, Jose, I'll trade Boehm for Chapman because at least I know with Chapman I'm getting a platinum glove winner. I'll take Chapman. I don't know about Rafael. Jose, I already have enough left-handed bats that don't produce in the postseason. Okay, I don't need another one. Plus, Harper would have to go back to the outfield with Devers here. That would be a mess because I think Devers is definitely done playing third base. But Jose, I like where your head's at. Just go get the other Giants infielder. I'd rather trade Bone for Luis Ariz. At least I know I'm getting someone that's going to bat 300. But yeah, I think this deadline's going to be very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of activity. I hope the Phillies do something that of substance that makes me happy. Maybe, sort of, kind of. I don't know. I mean, Here's the thing. Read the room when it comes to the city of Philadelphia right now. LeBron James just signed with the Sixers. The Eagles just made Jalen Carter the highest paid D tackle in the NFL history. The Flyers at least attempted to sign Leo Carlson to what would have been the richest contract in NHL history. Dave, have a freaking pulse in the city you work in. Because not only that, I found something interesting on Twitter today. Dave Dombrowski's deal runs out at the end of the 2027 season, and there's already talks of extending him. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just announce this to you right now. If Dave Dombrowski gets a contract extension from the Philadelphia Phillies, Dustin will be hosting Hitting Home by himself because I will have freaking died from a stroke. Because I will say right now that Dave Dombrowski is living off of old glories since coming to Philadelphia. And all the big moves that he has made have backfired completely. They are paying two guys right now a combined of like $38 million not to play here. Nick Castellanos and Taijuan Walker. Dave Dombrowski moves. Trey Turner. Dave Dombrowski move. Aaron Nola. Dave Dombrowski move. The only move that Dave Dombrowski has made here that has actually been damn good was Johan Duran. And guess what? The only reason they had to make that trade is because he tried to fix the closer role with Jordan Romano, and we all saw how that worked out. I think my tirades over. Maybe. I hope.
So you're going to be so happy that when the trade deadline ends, the only move the Phillies are going to make is when they extend Dombrowski?
I'm going to get back to the comment section here.
Jose,
they're never.
You know the Cubs did that with Jed Hoyer last year, right? They announced
Yeah,
his extension 2 days before the trade deadline, and then the Cubs had a very bad trade deadline.
that's a fair point. And Jose, I agree with you because here's the thing, right? The Phillies did this once before. When they had that era of Utley, Rollins, and Howard, Ed Wade found those guys. Ed Wade drafted those guys. He brought Jimmy Rollins into Philly. He got Chase Utley to Philly. He got Ryan Howard here. Ed Wade was good at evaluating talent, but it was Pat Gillick who put them over the top. I say the same thing about Matt Klentak. Matt Klentak signed Bryce Harper. I think it was a lot more John Middleton than Matt Klentak, but Matt Klentak was the guy running the front office when that happened. Matt Klentak is the one that signed Zach Wheeler. Matt Klentak is the one that traded Curtis Mead for Christopher Sanchez. What Dave Dombrowski was supposed to come here and do is put the Phillies over the top and improve them on the margins because the big pieces were already here. Okay, he signed Kyle Schwarber. Good for him. But when Pat Gillick was here in 2008, he made those moves on the margins that got them over the top. The 2007 Phillies didn't have a consistent closer when they got to the postseason. They tried Tom Gordon. They tried Brett Myers. Hell, I even think I remember Antonio Alfonseca making a save or two that season. So you know what Pat Gillick did? He said, I got two premier late inning relievers, Ryan Matson and JC Romero. I need a middleman that can do anything in the bullpen I ask him for. He went and got Chad Durbin. Oh, I need a consistent closer. He went out and got Brad Lynch. You know how that season ended. Then, at the trade deadline, Cole Hamels is pitching good ball. Jamie Moyer's having one of the best years of his career at age 45. Brett Myers had a really awful start to 08, but in the second half, he actually got sent to AAA for a few weeks and then came back stronger. They needed another innings eater in that rotation. He goes out and gets Joe Blanton. Not only does Joe Blanton go undefeated in a Phillies uniform in 2008, the guy wins a World Series game while hitting a home run. Then he makes the trade with the Blue Jays to get Matt Stairs, just in case if we need a lefty pop bat off the bench. Go ask Jonathan Broxton about that pop. Every marginal move that Dave Dombrowski has made in his tenure in Philly has backfired. Whit Merrifield, backfired. Austin Hayes, backfired. Max Kepler was on PEDs and he backfired. Not to mention the countless relievers that he tries to bring in that doesn't work. And the fact that the rotation is at its weakest points now because Wheeler, Sanchez, and Luzardo can't win you every single game. Someone else has to do something. Aaronola hasn't. They haven't won a game by the number 4 or 5 starter in almost 2 months.
Jesus.
You can't win like this. Oh, you'll need a number 5 starter in the postseason. No, but you need a number 5 starter to get to the postseason. And Jose, back to your comment here. Here's the problem. Dombrowski will continue to sell this bag of goods to John Middleton every single season. Like, oh, we have a good club. We're going to be in a good position. If I was John Middleton, I would say, excuse me, you spent $300 million on a shortstop who can't field anymore. You gave $170 million of my money to a starting pitcher who allows 2 home runs per inning almost. I am paying your last right-handed outfielder to not play for my team. Paying a starting pitcher, you gave $72 million to in Taijuan Walker to not play for my team. Get out of my office would be the next words I'd say to him. You're fired. Dave Dombrowski was supposed to be brought in to do what Pat Gillick did in 2008. Put them over the top. He has failed at it miserably. And this deadline, he better nail something to give this team something. Because right now, they look old and it ain't looking better. And Jose, that's the problem. A couple of years ago, I'm not talking 2022, just 2024, they could have done this. They could have traded Aiden Miller. They could have traded Andrew Painter when they still had substance. Now, Aiden Miller hasn't played a game this year because he has a back injury. Justin Crawford looks just to me like an average MLB center fielder who may hit 250 and play decently enough in the outfield. And Andrew Painter looked like up here, he looks like Aaron Nola with higher velocity. So now, all the prospects that were high end for the past couple years, when you could have went out and made that big splash to put the team over the top, you no longer can unless you get lucky. Now, we did get lucky with Mick Abel. Somehow Mick Abel and a 19-year-old Eduardo Tate got us Shohan Duran. That's luck right there. I don't know if those other would the Phillies consider trading Justin Crawford at this point? Probably not, because then who's playing center field every day? Derek Hill? I like Derek Hill as a platoon bat, but not as an everyday player. But now, Painter and Miller's biggest value was between the last 2 years when you should have traded them. And first of all, because people always say, oh, don't trade your top prospects. Do you understand how hard it is to develop top prospects in your system? There are teams that are great at it, and then there are teams that are terrible at it. And outside of the 3 players I named about 10 minutes ago, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, outside of those 3, the Philadelphia Phillies have not developed a superstar player since the freaking 70s. They did not draft and develop this team into a contender. They signed Bryce Harper outside the organization. The Phillies are better off. Let someone else develop the guy, then sign him. That's what they're better off at doing. Bryce Harper, free agent. Kyle Schwarber, free agent. Christopher Sanchez, technically, yes, he was a prospect when they got him, but he was a trade. He was not developed. He was not drafted by the Phillies. Zach Wheeler, free agent. Shohan Duran, trade. Jesus Luzardo, trade. Do you pick up Trey Turner, free agent? Are we picking up the vibe from this team? They did not draft and develop this team. The only 2 drafted players, 3 drafted players on this team, Justin Crawford, Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott. And that's not a compelling argument to keep your damn prospects. I just went off on a tirade for the past 20 minutes.
You have to do that sometimes, though.
It's past midnight, and now I'm mad. Not really mad. I'm just annoyed. I'm just so sick and tired of being sold this bill of goods. But Jose, real quickly though, because we are wrapping the show up, I do want to thank you for throwing all your comments on the YouTube side. Appreciate you checking the show out. And if you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button for us on the YouTube. The show is live every Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to come on and throw out your Phillies grievances with me, feel free, brother, because I will grieve with you, and I will bring you the voice that you need, because I am sick of Dave Dombrowski. With that being said, Dustin, anything else you want to bring up tonight?
Yeah, no. Hopefully, connection is better next week. Dealt with some bad weather this week, so we have a lot of connection issues going on. So for the listeners, apologize for that, but kind of at the
Ah,
mercy of what's going on right now around me. So
it is no worries whatsoever, brother. I just don't want to have you sitting there and staticking the whole time. And I don't want to have that happen. So it was all good. I knocked out the rest of that top list from Jeff Passan. I only brought the first 20, some of the top 25. The rest were kind of just middle tier, but some interesting names out there. All right, you know what, Dustin? Before we get out of here, let's do one quick bold trade deadline take from each of us. You give me a bold trade, I'll give you a bold trade.
I think the Cubs are going to double down on two teams.
Really?
I think they're going to double down with the Angels and try to get both Reed Detmers and Jose Soriano.
Oh my God.
And then I think they're going to double down with the Mets and try to get Brooks Raley and Luke Weaver.
Oh boy. Jose, I agree. They giving me some high blood pressure too. That's why I can't wait for the freaking fall when I got the Sixers, the Flyers, and the Eagles to look forward to. All right. Let me think. I'm gonna try to be very I'm gonna try to think outside the box. All right. I'm gonna say the Brewers finally make a splash. Whether it's Scooble or maybe Miller if the Padres still trade him. But I think they're going to get one of them.
Yeah.
I I think this is the year that they do it. So when we're back on here next Wednesday, guys, when we're recapping what has been a crazy trade deadline, we'll see if any of us was right. All I know is I can give you one bold take. Dave Dombrowski ain't going to do nothing. He's going to trade for AJ Minter, and that's it. But again, lefty relievers, another ask on my I'll be here all night if I keep doing this.
That's fine. You
But
have all night. You have all night. You don't work. You work in the morning.
all right, before we go, let me answer Jose's last question. What trade would you be shocked that the Phillies pull it off? Easily, Jose, Tarek Skubal. I know they've been linked to him, and they've been linked to Mason Miller too, but I don't think the Phillies have the draft picks, yeah. No, wrong sports. It's late, but I don't think the Phillies have the prospect capital to land either of those two. So if they were to land one of those two, I'd be surprised. And I'll throw Byron Buxton in there too, because again, I don't think Buxton's leaving the Twins, but he is the stereotypical right-handed bat that the Phillies are looking for, but I don't think they have the capital to do it. Plus, I don't think Buxton wants to leave. If I had a right-handed bat option, I would like to get Joe Adell, but again, that makes too much sense for Dave. He doesn't know what that is. But with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up tonight's episode of Hitting Home. Once again, we do apologize for our little technical issue, but we still knocked out the show. The grid took me down this week by myself because that Lonnie Chisenhall couldn't play one game for the Pirates after getting traded there. So We'll get our revenge on that damn grid next week. But guys, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you everybody for commenting on the Facebook side. Thank you everybody for commenting on the YouTube side. We appreciate you. And guys, like always, hit that like on Facebook. We just hit 1,300 on the Facebook page. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We're not too far off from 500 subs on there. So keep helping us build this, grow this community, and have a great rest of your Wednesday/Thursday, I guess. And we will see you guys next week. We'll have a full trade deadline recap. So have a good night, guys. We'll talk to you soon. For Dustin Reese, I'm Sam Nelson. Have a good night, everybody.
The following has been a presentation of 609 Sports Talk Radio.
Sam?